Welcome back to the Kilo Talk podcast. This is episode 14. We got another great guest lined up for you this week. This is a little bit, he is a power lifter, but we're going to dive into a couple different things outside of powerlifting that will ultimately kind of wrap back around to the big picture of our podcast. So this week we're joined by Ian Sullinger, or how I know him from Parkersburg, from Sully. And again, it should be a great show. So, hey, Ian, why don't we go ahead and jump right in? Just let everyone know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I've been listening for a while now, and I love what you guys are doing. But anyways, yeah, like Wes said, my name's Ian Sullinger, better known as Sully. Do a little bit of bodybuilding, a little bit of powerlifting, and a little bit of athletic training. I train middle school and high school athletes and some collegiate athletes to try to get them to the next level and where they need to go. So some of my best lifts, in powerlifting, it's, nothing spectacular, but I was in the 165-pound weight class. My best lifts were 374 squat, 270 bench, and 413 deadlift for a 1057 total at 165 in the raw division. So that's what I did powerlifting wise. And bodybuilding, I've done 3 shows in 2018. I did the NPF Muscle Party Classic, where I've finished 4th place in the overall category and 1st place in the novice. And I also did the NPF Mountaineer Classic, where I finished 1st place overall. And then the NGA Monster Mash, which I placed 4th in my class, which that was a great meet there, or show. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, the first time I met Solly was back in we were talking about this a little bit before the show started. Our hometown gym, Excessive Iron. Again, I can't speak highly enough of that gym. Go check it out if you're ever in Parkersburg. But yeah, he was in there training bodybuilding, and I was going in with powerlifting. But the cool thing about Solly, it didn't really matter that even though we weren't focusing on the same things at that time, like we jumped in, became friends almost instantly. And then wrap around a little bit later, you end up doing a powerlifting meet. So I thought that was pretty cool. And what kind of drove you to do that first powerlifting meet?
So for powerlifting, I actually did a few meets in high school. Unsanctioned.
Okay, I didn't know that.
right. Unsanctioned, obviously. So what we would do is, so for the first couple years of high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. And then my junior and senior year, I was only a 2-sport athlete. I was a fall and spring. So a couple of the football players, some of my best friends, Hooch, I told you I would be name dropping as many people as I can today, shouting out as many people as I can. So Hooch, one of my good friends, we would do powerlifting in the winter. And that's kind of my first, got my feet wet in my first couple powerlifting contests back then. And it was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah. And I mean, both times that was the first meet that you did, like after the high school meet, was that USPF Nationals in Huntington?
Yes, USPF Nationals, which was that was an awesome experience, honestly. Wes Hatfield, and we kind of just were like, dude, we're strong, might as well let's jump into to a powerlifting meet. We've been doing bodybuilding for a while, or at least training towards it. And we were just tired of, not lifting as heavy as we could. So we're like, you know what, we're feeling pretty strong. Let's put our strength to the test and see how we stack up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Nick, I think you're familiar with Wes Hatfield. He helped you out in a meet in, was it December? No, you helped him out of the meet. How'd that go down?
Yeah, so basically, I had no idea who Wes Hatfield was until I think you weren't competing in December, were you, Wes?
No, I was not.
Okay, so we were helping people of our team out, and then I know you were friends with Wes, and you guys were talking, and somehow I ended up getting roped into handling him for deadlifts and calling his attempts.
That's what it was, yeah.
I wouldn't say roped in. I kind of volunteered. I definitely volunteered. But yeah, that was my first introduction to Wes, and then 5 minutes later, he trusted me for whatever reason to call his attempts for him.
Yeah. So that's what, that's when I met Ian and Wes together. But all right, so go ahead.
So
man.
a quick thing on Wes. That's my man right there. That was my training partner for 2 years, man. Me and him, I'm telling you, we were super close. I'd see him more than I'd see my family, more than I'd see my girl, more than I'd see anyone. He was a great guy. He was stronger than me, and he had a strong drive just like me.
Mm-hmm.
So we meshed so well together because we both had this goal and this focus and this drive to be the best we could be in bodybuilding and powerlifting. So I want to give, we call him the Manimal, Manimal, West J Hatfield. A lot of respect and a lot of praise for that guy to kind of get me to where I was, and I'm sure he'd say the same about me.
Yeah, definitely, man. I will say one thing. You guys were always in there killing it. I admired that about you guys back in the day. I mean, no one worked harder in the gym than you two. So, but we kind of bounced around a little bit there, but talked about a couple cool things. But just real quick, what are your goals next, Solly? So where are you looking at, jumping it back on stage for bodybuilding, or you think you go back to powerlifting at some point?
So the goal right now, I'm working with a coach, Brandon Wattis. He's my nutrition coach right now for bodybuilding. And so I had planned on competing in late 2021 or early 2022 for bodybuilding.
Okay.
I know it's a long layoff, but sometimes it takes like that, especially natural bodybuilding. It takes a while, to build muscle, to put on size, to kind of do your thing, let your body work. So that's the goal right now. I would love to get back into powerlifting. I have some goals that I want to hit, have some numbers that, I'm kind of eyeing right now, but right now my strength just isn't where it's at, with the COVID and, being older. So it'll take me a while to get back into a competitive powerlifting balance.
Yeah, I feel that. My training's been all over the place with the COVID as well. So
it's been ridiculous. We try to just get it in where we can, when we can, and how we can.
Yep. I feel that. So real quick, I got a lot of topics we want to kind of dive into here after, but we're going to pause real quick and go to something. It's a little unrelated, but a guy that is an old member of the West Virginia powerlifting team, and we just have to give him a little bit of a shout out, and that is Nick Onega. This man is a beast. He went out yesterday and put up a 1,763 pound total at 163 or 165 pound body weight. This puts him at second of all time at 21 years old. I don't know about you, Nick. You're around Nick for a while. I think he might have the potential to be one of the greatest U.S. powerlifters that we've ever seen. His potential is endless.
Yeah, and I wasn't shocked when I saw that because I saw a lot of his Instagram leading up to that meet. And I knew he was going to put up something absolutely absurd, but something that just always was on my mind since I saw that yesterday was his 650 deadlift looked really, really easy, like an opener. What if he put like 30, 40 pounds on that? He could have been scratching 1,800 yesterday at 165. And one thing that's always overlooked with Nick is that he's only 21 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy. And another thing I want to point out is I don't want to hear anyone ever giving Nick shit for squat depth because he sank his fucking squats. Wasn't even close, man.
Undeniable.
Yes.
Undeniable.
One of the cleanest lifters I've ever seen, and I'm real excited. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we actually plan on having him in the podcast here in the next couple of weeks, so we'll take a lot of time to talk about it. But, I feel like we wouldn't be doing West Virginia powerlifting justice without kind of throwing it in here the day after it happened. And he is a beast, and he's got so much potential. And but that's all I'll say on that. And staying on the next thing, I kind of want to
let me chime in on him real quick. Yeah, let me chime in on him real quick. I saw his name up on the rundown sheet, so I went and checked his Instagram out. And that dude is a beast at 165. Absolutely. I'm a big stickler for range of motion, and he sunk his squat. His bench was unbelievable at 420 plus. Like Nick said, his deadlift was cake for a third attempt. So,
yep.
That guy, especially at 165 at 21, that guy's got a bright future.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Sorry. Yeah, who are the big names in the world at 165 right now? Like, let's say even raw without wraps. From my kind of wheelhouse, you have Taylor Atwood is the really big one that sticks out.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
The guy that has the number one. This will be interesting because they're going a little bit. I don't know if everyone knows this, but the guy that has the number one total ever at 165 is a Russian. I don't have his name off the top of my head, and I'm not going to try to botch some Russian name just out of memory. but he, if I'm not mistaken, is coming to the U.S. Open in November, and Nick is also going to the U.S. Open. Now, Nick says that he's going up to 181, but I think that this other guy also was going up to 181, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're actually going to have a showdown. Now, that being said, I think Nick is like just shy of 100 pounds away from him. But like you said, that deadlift was so easy. I think that would be a pretty cool competition to watch. I can't remember. We could look him up here.
Yeah, I have his page up, actually.
Okay.
So his name is Rostislav Petkov.
Love it.
Yeah, so in 2019, the 2019 Kern, he competed at 181, and that was his last meet. He could probably cut down to 165 again. It seems like he's not that far off, but I don't know what he walks around at. But as soon as Nick hit that total and said he moving to 181, like the first thing that came to my mind, and whether this is just an insane pipe dream or could actually happen, like I really hope Nick becomes like this third 181 to total 2000. And I think I posted on his Instagram, and he probably thought I was joking, but like I meant it, man. That'd be so cool to see.
Yeah, I don't think you're as crazy off as you think. Now, one thing I'd like to point out, Nick, again, I don't want to start like throwing too much into it because I want to have him on the show, but he does some pretty insane weight cuts. So I am excited to see him at 200 plus getting down to 181. I think it'll be a sight to see. I think he has the potential to do it, man. He's so young, and he'll have time to grow into that weight class. I could easily see him hit it being up above 2,000.
Oh man, that's something that I'll probably, like, in all honesty, I'll probably cry if I see that.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Yeah. All right, so I want to jump into now. So obviously, I want to spend some more time talking about your powerlifting and bodybuilding experience here later in the show. But one thing that I think makes you very unique, Sully, and we like to spend a lot of time talking to coaches. So we've talked to some high school powerlifting coaches, some people that help coach college teams, things like that. But you do some training with a lot of athletes for sports related outside of like your traditional powerlifting and bodybuilding that we normally talk about. And I really wanted to hear some of the stuff you had to say and how this can kind of maybe tie into like a lot of the topics about our podcast about like the powerlifting and barbell training stuff. So let's go ahead and just kick it off by like letting everyone know like what type of athletes do you normally train, like what sports they normally do, and are you associated with a certain high school down there, or is it a gym, or just kind of let us know what's going on with that.
Yeah, awesome. So I first got into it back in West Virginia, actually, where I was help coaching at my alma mater, Ohio Valley. I was running the strength and conditioning for the women's lacrosse team. And so I had about 15 to 20 girls that I would train 3 or 4 times a week. And looking back, man, I just wish everyone says I wish I knew then what I know now, because just the amount of growth I've learned in the past couple years really could have been beneficial for a team like that. But moving forward, yeah, so I work with this company called Get Better or Get Beat, which I love that motto. If you're not getting better, you're getting beat. With the head coach, Maurice Mann. And we train all types of athletes. We have lacrosse players, football players, softball players, ranging from 8 years old all the way to 18 plus. And it's an amazing thing to be able to give back to the kids and maybe give them something that you didn't have growing up, as a spot to train, or a coach that believed in you, and that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I see a lot on your Instagram stories and stuff, a lot of the cool work that you're doing out there, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, one thing that I want to try to get people to understand is if you play a sport, at any level, but let's just stick with the high school, you have to realize that training for sport isn't, necessarily training for powerlifting or training for bodybuilding. There's different avenues, and different ways to achieve your goals. So if you want to become a better athlete, in my opinion, you don't need to have this, astronomical bench or this astronomical, deadlift off a straight bar or kind of stuff like that. It's more, it's more single leg power, unilateral work. It's more explosion work, sled pulls, sled marches, single leg squats, getting in that frontal plane, that lateral quickness and that lateral movement. So a lot of people I just think, especially as young kids who don't have guidance, they always think, bench, squat, deadlift, when in all reality, it's how good can you move your body, especially for athletic performance rather than, for bodybuilding or powerlifting.
Yeah, I completely agree. We and Nick can kind of chime in here, but we had a conversation on last week's podcast about people in the powerlifting community getting on to like NFL football players about their squats not being to depth and things like that. And I understand a lot more goes into what you just said, but it's so funny to me that like you're saying, people in the powerlifting community want to comment on athletes' training because we know that it's not the same type of training. Like we train for very specialized movements to do 3 lifts the strongest we can on a single day. That doesn't mean like that's not a good way for an athlete to train. So they don't necessarily have to be squatting below parallel, like a lineman, for instance. I talked about this last week. I mean, they're not spending a lot of time squatting below parallel in the game. So like, why would they do that to build training in the off season?
Right. Yeah. And that's what some people, I just don't think, their ego comes into play and, oh, why did this? Why can't they do that? And kind of thing. Like exactly like you said, a lot of people when they train, they got to train specific to their sport. So I guess, you don't have to squat below parallel every time. Or I think for athletes, a trap bar is, a little better for deadlifting than a straight bar is, just, to take some compression off the back and to get them into a better position. And just that whole aspect of athletic training versus powerlifting training. And don't get me wrong, there's some powerlifting aspects that are beneficial to an athlete, but it's a give and take, it's a pick and pull type of thing rather than, like you said, like the bench, squat, deadlift on any given day. How much can we put up?
Yeah, definitely. Nick, this reminds me of the conversation we had in the middle of the week in the group message.
I was actually about to ask something about that later on, but we'll save that for later. So I think you made a really good point there where like hyper specificity in terms of like glorifying the squat, bench, and deadlift for really any sport is something that kind of ruins a lot of athletic coaching. Because with what Wes said, I think powerlifters tend to think that the squat, bench, and deadlift is like the holy grail of strength training, but they don't really understand the little nuance that goes into other sports and what actually makes an athlete good in that certain sport.
Yeah, exactly. And it just all comes down to what you're trying to get out of your training. Like it's all about the movement, how fast you can move in a certain position, how strong you can get your body, time under tension, different variations, all that comes into play when we're talking athletic performance rather than sport, rather than like a powerlifting performance and or bodybuilding. Like if I'm training my athletes, I'm not going to have them do 4 sets of 10 on the curls. We can be doing a lot of other beneficial stuff. And then if you want to do your curls for the girls, at the end of the workout or on your own time, be my guest. But that's not going to necessarily translate onto the field the way doing curls would for a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, one thing I do kind of want to ask your opinion on. So when we were training together at Excessive, and I saw that you were starting to train some athletes, I would see some of this circuit work that you would put them through as far as like pushing sleds, different like sprints and stuff like that. And honestly, I think it'd be very beneficial where like a lot of powerlifters nowadays completely leave any type of training, all around athletic training, completely out of their program a lot nowadays. Do you think it would be beneficial for maybe a powerlifter, maybe off-season training to implement some of this like circuit training with the sleds and different things like that?
Oh, absolutely be beneficial. And you could even sprinkle it in, maybe on a GPP day or an off day or a lower work day. The whole additive of, more than 5 reps is cardio or whatever, for the powerlifting community. But that type of training and even mobility work and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be beneficial for any type of athlete, no matter what you're doing. The better your body can move and the better you can move your body, the better and more beneficial you're gonna be. So sled training, absolutely. Do some more circuit training, get your heart rate up, cut some of that fat down, get that aerobic capacity up a little bit so you have more work capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I remember when I had my best meet, I was working, my coach at the time was Tony Montgomery Jr. And he had me doing closer to the meet. It wasn't really as much circuit training, even though I do find that valuable. But this is kind of the reason why I wanted to ask. A lot more high rep, like split squat type of things, like put me in kind of uncomfortable situations, but it was a lot higher rep, kind of kept my heartbeat up throughout my training. And it's funny because it went against everything I thought I knew about powerlifting at the time. I was like,
Right.
I was like 2 months out from a meet, and I'm like, why am I doing this type of thing? I should be getting real fat right now, and that's all I should be worried about, eating about 6 Big Macs every night. But I didn't, and I stuck to a clean diet and kind of trained like that. And it was still I felt very good. Like I could move well through warm-ups, training, and of course it was the best meet I ever had. So it does make you kind of like open your eyes to this whole way we thought we knew powerlifters kind of are. It might not be the actual case. I mean, I think you have to do that within reason. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be pushing a sled the week of the meet, but I think there's ways you can implement that in your training.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
I know a few people that should be listening to this conversation right now, or should be listening to this episode when it comes out. I won't name any names, but just
Right.
putting that out there.
and it's just better for optimal health. It's how much you could get your work capacity up and get your aerobic capacity up, the better, right? Especially if we're about to be in an apocalypse or something.
Yeah.
All I know is I gotta beat you, and if I could beat you, I ain't dying yet. So just little funny stuff like that, it could really go a long way.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's go ahead and look at like maybe just a general athlete. And I don't want to go too specific for sports, like in a certain sport. And obviously, COVID kind of changed things where you guys are doing a lot of training out time. But let's think of like a normal time. What does like a training week for an athlete might look like? So like how much time are they spending doing the circuit style training versus like weight training, things like that? And are you implementing weight training?
Yeah, so how we're doing now, we get anywhere from 8 to 12 kids in a session. So how we kind of do it is we'll do a dynamic warm up, same stuff every day, dynamic warm up. Then we'll get the mini bands out, get the hips loose, the glutes, the hams loose, do some mini band work. Then we'll get the bigger bands and do some like toes where like it's wrapped around you and your partner's behind you, holding the band back where you're getting, get your high knees up, get some explosion work in. And then after we're nice and warmed up, the main thing is here, especially depending on what age we work, for the younger kids, like I just saw we usually do about 80% just general GPP. Can you do an air squat? Can you, push a sled? Can you do a push up? Can you at least get in a hex bar and show me how to do a deadlift correctly? Keeping your back, flat, your chest up, your lats tight, get your knees from caving in, just basic stuff like that to help them get into a better athletic position before adding weight. And then with some of our more advanced people, we'll do our deadlift training or our trap bar hops where they jump with the trap bar to get some explosion and then get into some hurdle hops. Our pressing, we do a lot of landmine pressing, a lot of shoulder friendly pressing, dumbbell presses, landmine presses, a lot of med ball work. I'm a huge believer in med ball work because it's so versatile, and our younger kids and our younger athletes can grasp what we're trying to teach them with the med ball as opposed to maybe a barbell.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And I kind of wanted to bring that up because I think, especially in certain sports, with high schoolers, middle schoolers, certain athletes, they find in the strength and conditioning community, there's been a big shift the last few years where they're starting to finally implement some more weight training. So I'm not going to say, I don't want to sound like too barbell specific here because I understand that's not applicable for every athlete. But I do think as a whole, it used to be, especially in like some of the women's sports and whatnot, where they would shy away from any strength training thinking like, or even baseball. You're a baseball player, so you should understand this. I mean, you have some coaches that believe you should never be touching any type of barbell, but that's come to find out that's not just like necessarily true. So I kind of wanted to see like what your thoughts are and like the shift and how it could be good that we're getting more kids at a younger age involved with, again, weight training. I'm not going to say, obviously they're not going to be going out there and doing a barbell like we know in powerlifting. So I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that, really.
I mean, I'm a huge fan and believer of weight training with a barbell, and some of our younger kids will do a progression maybe on a squat. So instead of just throwing a bar on them and trying to teach them how to squat with the bar first. We'll do air squats, with their heels up on a piece of wood or something, and then we'll progress into a goblet squat. We'll progress into a kettlebell type of squat or a kettlebell hinge, for the hips, for the deadlift and whatnot. But the younger we can get the kids, around barbells, around, weight training, lifting, athletic performance, the better they're going to be in the long run. But that's different than, having your dad, taken to the gym, which I see all the time, 12, 13-year-old kids with their dad going to the gym, not warming up, going straight to the bench, not even, hitting the bar, throwing plates on right away, not hitting range of motion, lifting their butt up, so I try not to, harp on them too much, but obviously in my mind, I'm like, that's wrong, so
Yeah.
you gotta go in with the mindset of what are we trying to accomplish here?
Yep. No, I completely agree. And it's funny you say that because you do see that all the time about any gym you go to. And it's just some like high schooler, middle schooler. And like you see it a lot with high schoolers too, that might be like training for a sport. And I'd have to be very careful what I say here, but actually I really don't. But
Right.
they might be going out and training basically 5 days a week with their football team midsummer, and their dumbass dads got them in the gym training an extra 3 times in the evening, like it's just going to help them out. And it's like, I mean, you're doing nothing but hurting the kid right now because you're not taking into any consideration of the recovery and stuff. So I think it is important, like you said, you made a very good point. Yes, weight training is very important. We need to implement it in all sports at a young age, but it needs to be done the right way. And we need to have people that are very knowledgeable in their field like you and others out there that are knowledgeable in strength and conditioning that can really help implement it in a proper way, for sure.
I always get really wary when I see like a son and dad group walking into the gym, especially if the kid looks really young. And there's this one time that I remembered, like right when you said that was, I think it was, I want to say, oh man, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. This dad like brought his wife and his kid to the gym, like so they could all max out their deadlift together. It was really weird. I mean, the dad's like, late 30s, early 40s. Like, mom is around the same age. So they've been lifting for a while, and, like, you can tell or whatever. But the kid is, like, no older than 12. I'm not even joking. And dad's, like, throwing on, like, plates after plates after plates. And this dude, like, this kid's about to hurt himself. And he, like, I think he ended up pulling, like, 315 that day, which is pretty cool. Like, that's a good deadlift for, like, a 12-year-old. But good Lord, did it look ugly.
Yeah, right. With your back looking like a freaking cat on Halloween, and you got them, they're moving their head around during the deadlift, just a whole bunch of bad news that I see. And that's kind of why I got into coaching, especially for athletic, is to try to get kids to understand that, hey, like there's a more than one way to skin a cat, but there's also a way to not hurt yourself and do things correctly and get stronger, not just doing the big 3 main lifts as it would be, for powerlifting.
Yeah. And that kind of leads me to my next question that I was thinking about. And we spend a lot of time talking with high school coaches and different college coaches and stuff of powerlifting sports. And one thing, and you actually probably have a very interesting take on this after playing college baseball. But with the increase in weight training as we see for a whole, and especially I think this really needs to be emphasized on like the female side. Like it's becoming a very common thing, which is very good for female athletes to be training in the gym. Do you think that will eventually allow athletes to gravitate more towards like bodybuilding and powerlifting after they're done with their particular sport?
So in college, actually, I was running Brandon Lilly's cube all winter leading
Really?
up to the season, and I mean, I was probably some of the strongest I've been running that method. It was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, bench, squat, deadlift, split. With a few accessories ran in there, and I was getting strong, feeling good, feeling explosive. So, I mean, I'm all for some type of powerlifting training if done correctly and if implemented correctly. I'm all for that kind of work because I've done it and seen some good results of it. But the one thing I would say is, especially for athletes, young athletes, make sure you're doing your rehab and your prehab.
Okay.
I don't know how many athletes I hear, oh man, I'm so tight, man, I'm so unflexible. I mean, how many days a week do you spend, working on mobility or working on flexibility, and doing the little things correctly that are going to benefit you in the future. And that's one thing that's huge, is making sure you're doing your rehab and your prehab to be able to get you to handle those loads for a long period of time.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Sully, I'm going to need you to help me with my rehab and my prehab, because I keep getting my ass hurt.
all the time, man. Believe me, I got injuries after injuries after injuries, man. It's no fun growing up, right?
Yep. And I got this knee problem that's all of a sudden bugging me again after 5 years. So I don't know. But is it time to ask the question, Nick, before we jump into something else?
Okay, like we had this massive argument amongst our friends last week, and do you think pistol squats could help powerlifters?
Wait. We got to rephrase it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not saying it will not help powerlifters. Do you think powerlifters need to train pistol squats for stability, or is there other ways they can do it? Is what I'm getting at.
Okay. Well, I mean, so the pistol squat, the way I would do it was having pistol squat to a bench with some type of load.
Okay.
That way you're not shooting into the whole one-legged, especially for people who aren't usually getting down that low on a pistol squat on a regular basis. I'm a big fan of single leg bench squats, with some type of front rack position, dumbbell or kettlebell. I think that's fine for a power lifter, but and then another big thing I would do would be like rear foot elevated split squats to train unilaterally your legs that way. But I mean, sure, you throw it in there every once in a while. I wouldn't make it a staple necessarily, but I'm a huge fan of training single leg work for the transition to the double leg.
Interesting.
That might have been the perfect answer.
Yeah, that's an interesting variation. Really, like you're saying, coming down to a bench with a little bit of a load, because you get the stability aspect of it. But my biggest problem, like I was telling Nick, and I think I see both sides of this argument. Truthfully, I really do think like pistol squats are good. It's just taking the time to learn them. I feel like could be a little challenging at times. Like it's not something someone can just go pick up and do necessarily.
No, because I right now I probably couldn't even do a full CrossFit style pistol squat right now. No chance in hell. But what I can do is get a bench, and do a single leg pistol to a bench, and then really working on exploding up to really burn my quads, and a hamstring on the way down. And then, I mean, really, really torch your quads if you're doing it for some type of reps or with some type of decent front load.
Yeah.
I see no problem with it at all.
I was pro pistol squat in that argument, admittedly, but I also told Wes that it's completely useless to program pistol squats if, like, whoever you're coaching for any purpose, like, either one doesn't want to do them or two will half-ass them because they don't want to do them.
Yeah, Nick, I think you and I kind of like met in the middle, agreement on this. We had a good conversation, but yeah,
I also didn't care that much, to be honest.
And I think you have a good. I think you have a good point. Like you talk about Bryce, your coach, he was able to implement pistol squats and it made his squat go up. And like, I could see how that's a thing. And like, was I probably a little too far against it at that? Yeah. I mean, I probably was. Cause I mean, someone that's successful is able to do it. I think it was more of like the particular situation that had me a little fired up over not doing pistol squats.
It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, I don't know. It's something interesting. You talk, Solly, about again, this is something I started doing when I was working with Tony Montgomery Jr. So maybe I need to get back and start working with him again. But elevated split squats. That's something I started doing in my prep for bar fight when I put up my best total, and never done them before. And I tell you what, they were the single best thing for improving my squat. I can truly say that.
And they're a grinder, man. They suck. I hate doing rear foot elevated split squats. I absolutely hate them. But the reward you get after the carryover you get is well worth it if you got the balls to put them in the program and train them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I'm a goofy guy. I'm a goofy top heavy guy. You should see me up there trying to do split squats with my rear foot elevated. I'm sitting there falling around. Yeah. but they are very helpful for sure. So,
And that's
yeah.
another way you can get into a good bracing position too. You could really focus on your bracing if you're doing higher reps, because a lot of people do they get their good bracing for their first couple reps, and then once they start breathing heavy, their form goes to shit and their brace goes to shit. So stuff like that single leg work and a little bit of the higher rep work, I think you could really be intentional and focus on the movement and the bracing, which is only going to benefit, the big three.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so that was cool. Thank you for bringing us some insight into some of the training topic of athletes. That's what you're very unique, where we haven't had a guest to kind of be able to talk about that, and I think it's really cool, especially with like the age group you work with. It kind of ties into a lot of the other stuff we talk about with powerlifting, and kind of see that connection. But one thing I want to transition is a little bit more kind of about you here. So we touched on a little bit in your guest intro. You started out in bodybuilding, and then you spent some time doing some powerlifting stuff. And I kind of just want to get your thoughts on, like, what is that transition like for like a bodybuilder trying to do a powerlifting meet and then ultimately go back? Do you think it's something that someone can do both at the same time?
Yes and no. It's a unique thing, and I think I have like a unique perspective. One thing I will say, which kind of contradicts what I do, is if you want to be great at something, stick to that one thing that you want to be great at. Don't try to be great at too many things at once, or you're going to be sitting somewhere in the middle, right? But one thing when I'm into it, and Wes Hatfield can attest to this too, it's when we're training for bodybuilding, we want to be powerlifting, and then when we're training for powerlifting, we want to be bodybuilding, right? So it's that mental aspect of, you want what you can't have, and that's probably the hardest thing. But, I love both of them, because powerlifting, I just love absolute strength. I want to be the baddest mofo in the building that I can be. I want to be the strongest I could be, natural, no suits, no gear, no nothing. Just put some weight on the bar and let me lift it. And then that's kind of where my powerlifting ego is. And then the bodybuilding is, I'm going to look better than you. That's what bodybuilding is, right? I'm going to work my ass off, with prepping, meal prepping, and getting into the gym 1 or twice a day, every day, to look my best so I can beat you on stage. So it's a little bit of both. And if I were to recommend it, I would say pick one personally, which, like I said, contradicts what I do, but I just love them both so much that I kind of go through different phases of them both.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you said that, the whole you want what you can't have type of thing, because every meet I've ever done, it's like I get like a month to 2 months out, and I just like question why I'm doing this. Like, I'm always looking to like the next thing. I'm like, why am I doing this? And everything hurts and it sucks. And then I always remember, like, the night before or the morning of a meet, I wake up and I was just like, don't go to like every single one. I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I go, and as soon as I have that meet and I'm successful, because I come very prepared and I make lifts, and I take a lot of pride in that. I'm already picking the next meet before the meet's over. So it's the weirdest thing. No. It's like you get close, you're like, man, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, who's all signing up for the next one, right?
Yep. But then as soon as it's like going on or it's almost over, I'm like sitting there trying to look at the next meet for sure. But
yeah, it's like, what total can I get next? Or can I throw that 5 extra pounds on next time and see what I can get? Oh, that's a grind.
Dude, that's the point I'm at right now. I think I'm like 10 weeks out, and like I hate my life right now.
Right.
Everything hurts, and like I've done a pretty good job of staying healthy so far. Like, I don't think I've had any big injuries, knock on wood. But yeah, like, I'm excited to compete and everything, but good Lord, I don't want to lift heavy anymore. It hurts.
Yeah, you're just ready for it.
No, yeah. Literally. But then once you're in it, all the meets and shows I've done, I've absolutely had the time of my life and met some of the best people, at my bodybuilding shows or at the powerlifting meets, because it's that family. It's just weird. It's just, I still talk to dudes that I've literally met one day in my life. I still talk to guys like Eric Landrum and Eric Banks from powerlifting and people like that. And it's just like, it's just this brotherhood, you could say, of I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird to me that you can grow these friendships literally off 6 hours of meeting someone and really not even talking to them a whole lot, because half the time you're competing against them. But it's like, damn, dude, I like the way you think. I like the way you work. Let's be friends and hype each other up on Instagram and all that, and chat about, stuff that we like. And I think that's just the best part of doing bodybuilding and powerlifting is the community.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we preach on that like crazy in this show, and it's about, and more specific, the powerlifting community for what we're talking about.
Right.
But I mean, I've never been around a sport and a community of people that are so positive to each other. I mean, you see a couple like back and forth things on Instagram every once in a while that like I'm just kind of like, whatever. And then we talked last week. The one thing that does make me mad is like people always want to try to like be an internet judge, which I'm not a huge fan of. But if you go to about any powerlifting meet in the US, you're going to go and like we were talking about this earlier with like Nick helping Wes Hatfield out, and it's like just random people will help you out constantly. I mean, I was at the bar fight in 20 actually no, it was the IBC Classic in 2019. Yeah, 2019, I think. And I ended up just like wrapping some guy's knees the whole event. Like just because he was wrapping himself, his hands kept cramping, and like I see he was struggling. I jumped in. I'm like, hey man, you need help. And he's like, yeah. And it's just amazing to me the community around powerlifting because it's like that. I mean, most other sports I've been around, that wouldn't be a thing. Like you wouldn't have someone helping you out. Just at random, and then sometimes even competitors. Like I always like cheer on the people I'm competing against and become, like you're saying, some of my lifelong friends because I had one competition against them.
Right. And I remember I was competing against a guy and he asked if he could use some of my nose torque, some of the salts. I'm like, dude, I'm competing against you. I think he outlifted me or whatever. I'm like, dude, it's all good. Whatever, man. Like I can only do what I can do, and that's the thing about it.
Yeah. I completely agree. So one thing you're talking about, and I do agree with you on this, I think it'd be tough to try to be focused on powerlifting and bodybuilding at the same time. So as in like try to do a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting meet, like say you're trying to do one a year, like I think you'll struggle to be the best you can at one thing. But what I do find happening a lot now, especially in like modern powerlifting where it's very, very specific a lot of times, powerlifters like neglect any type of bodybuilding training whatsoever. And I think I've heard about this happening in the bodybuilding world as well, where people don't want to like lift heavy ever because they think they don't need it. Even though you don't think you could do both, do you think it's beneficial to, as a powerlifter, like especially in your off season, to kind of train like a bodybuilder, but like keep your compound movements in it? And then same thing for like a bodybuilder. Like, do you think you should keep trying to always progress those numbers, even if you're not training really powerlifting specific?
Yeah, and I think that the smartest way to do it is, obviously plan ahead and, hit a certain cycle, for X amount of weeks, maybe a more powerlifting specific cycle where you're working on heavier compound movements for a certain rep range, and then still get your volume in on some of the accessory work.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's what we love to do too. I mean, me and Wes were lifting heavy, 3-4 weeks out of a bodybuilding show because that's what we thought puts on the best mature dense muscle. It's the heavy compound lifts. That's why you see all these older gentlemen, in the natural bodybuilding world with these rock hard biceps and these big chests, is because they put on this mature, solid, dense muscle by doing heavy compound movements rather than just doing sets of 20 to 30, with lightweight. And it's a happy medium. But like I said, I'm a type of guy where within reason, I'm trying to go heavy on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know like about a month ago now, I reached out to you and Wes on Instagram just saying, hey, man, I want to train more like a bodybuilder in like ways because of all the coronavirus stuff going on. You guys kind of gave me some tips and what to do. And obviously, I'm only doing it for a short period of time, but really my training hasn't changed all that much other than the fact I'm just doing heavy compound lifts, kind of periodizing it down and then basically adding in some extra accessories. But I mean, I could see how that'd be good for anyone.
Yeah. And then like you were saying, get your heavy compound lifts, get them out the way. And then obviously just don't overkill, your reps and sets. Get what you need, get your work done on those sets, spend some energy, build some muscle, and then spend the rest of your training session on some hypertrophy work, really working on that mind-muscle connection, because that's what's going to help the muscle grow. And then with muscle growth, you keep hitting the compound movement. It's going to build strength, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right, Nick, you got anything else you want to talk about? Or you want to go ahead and wrap this up?
No, I mean, I think the only thing I can say right now is I really completely agree with the whole like bodybuilding versus powerlifting thing. And I know I've never done bodybuilding seriously. Like, if anything, I was just like a gym bro trying to build muscle. But a lot of kind of the mentality that I had when I was trying to build muscle in terms of my focus and my exercises has helped me greatly as a powerlifter as well.
Yeah, man, definitely. All right,
Yeah,
Ian.
real quick. I just want to. We were talking about like some valuable principles, that I take from bodybuilding to powerlifting and stuff, and especially because bodybuilding, it's have a discipline. And this can be for powerlifting or bodybuilding. When you're in that prep zone, when it's really time to grind, be disciplined about it. Make sure you get your rest and recovery, your sleep, your water. Don't miss sessions. Eat your meals correctly, because if you fail to plan, you're going to plan to fail. So make sure you're disciplined in your prep, and make sure you have a goal oriented off season, because that's where you're going to make a lot of your gains. And it's a grind. Bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever. It's a grind. So that's basically some of the valuable principles that I've kind of learned throughout my journey of bodybuilding and powerlifting.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, we appreciate you coming on the show, because you're just you got all kinds of information and a lot of different experiences as a whole. So that's like that's great advice just to leave to everyone. But if anyone is interested, man, go check out Ian's Instagram, because he has all kinds of cool information on there, especially if you want to try to become more athletic as a whole. I mean, he's always on there posting something on his stories, a lot of cool stuff, and a great guy. And honestly, if you ever need any coaching for anything like that, reach out to him. I'm sure he can hook you up or make sure you have the help you find the right person for sure. So why don't you let everyone know where they can find you on Instagram, Ian?
Yeah, so I appreciate the kind words, man. I really do. I love doing what I do. I love, hanging out and talking with you guys. But you can find me on Instagram at Rasta Sully, Rasta Sully, Sully. Basically all I use right now is Instagram. So just shoot me a DM, click the follow. I love getting I love new followers, love connecting with people, and I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you if they don't already know?
Yeah, you can find me on my personal Instagram at notasquid99, and the link to my Instagram or my lifting Instagram is in that bio too.
Yeah, and I'm at Wes McKnight7 on Instagram. While you're on there, jump on the Kilo Talk podcast at Kilo Talk Podcast. Again, thank you everyone for your support. I mean, we've had a great feedback from all you guys, great participation, everything we do. And we really look forward to bringing you more content. We also have some cool stuff in the works that we want to implement here soon. So thank you again, Sully, for jumping on the show, and thank you everyone for listening.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.